What's going on, people? Welcome back to the LNBE podcast, where LNBE stands for literally nothing but everything. And if you want to find me on my socials, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at the LNBE pod. You can also find me on YouTube if you just type in the LNBE podcast. It's just all the audio versions of these. And if you want to write in, feel free to send me an email at lnbemedia@gmail.com. And if you do like the LNBE podcast, please make sure that you like, subscribe, maybe share it with a friend, write a review, write up a comment, do whatever it is that you got to do that's going to help boost this thing. Because the more engagement that you guys give, then the better off this thing will fare in general. And alright, now that I got all that stuff out of the way, let's kind of get into this bitch. How y'all doing? Did you guys all survive that little cyber attack thing? Or whatever that thing was from CrowdStrike? I don't even know what happened. I wasn't affected by it. So I'd be interested to know who actually was affected by it. Because everybody I talked to was not affected by it. But apparently there were like 8 to 9 million computers affected by it. Which means 8 to 9 million people were affected by it. And apparently I just really don't get out much. Because none of those 8 to 9 million people was anybody that I knew. But I also don't know a lot of pilots, and I don't know who else was affected by this thing. Bankers. I think banks were affected. I definitely don't know many people in the healthcare industry. But yeah, for anybody who's in those industries, like, I don't know how long the outage was. Was it more than an hour? Like, what did you guys do? What happened during that outage? Like, what were you guys all thinking happened initially before it was even reported? Do you guys remember? I don't know if it was like earlier last year or late last year, but when Instagram went down, everybody was losing their fucking shit. Because everybody was just like, I can't log into my account. Did I get hacked? God forbid somebody looks at my vanish mode. But actually, like, can somebody please explain to me what vanish mode is? I've actually never used it. I don't even know what it's for. Is it literally just for sexting? Is that what it's for? But regardless, how many more innovative ways do you need to fucking send your nudies? What, because this way it feels more protected? It's called vanish mode. What, has Snapchat just gone away? That was the ingenious of Snapchat, right? You send something a little risque, going your whole life as Nick Cage, just thinking it's going to be gone in 60 seconds for the world to never see again. Ah, glorious times. You thought that was the safest way, but you don't understand. Somebody else is on the other side of that app, right? So it's like, dude, your ex might not be able to retrieve that photo, but that doesn't mean that the guys in the background might not be able to still have it. Like, you have no idea who has seen your fucking nude photo. You think vanish mode is gonna fucking fix that? Nah. Fam, I hate to tell you, the more technology advances, the more and more you're also low-key being spied on. So, send that with fucking caution. There is nothing that you have ever sent that cannot be re-encrypted by somebody who either knows the shit or who doesn't know the shit. Somebody will always have access to your shit. So just keep that in mind. Whether it's Snapchat, whether it's fucking vanish mode, whether it's whatever the fuck you're using, I say it with love, but I also say it from a place of also knowing the fuck what I'm talking about. Hint, hint, fucking wink, wink. Hey, we're not all perfect. I'm not the only one. I know I'm not. I'm talking to all of us. Unless you were just totally vanilla or you're over the age of like 60, you have most likely sent a nude. Hell, I bet you back in the day they used to fucking send nudes. They used to draw out portraits of each other and mail them through carrier pigeon. But yeah, dude, just be careful who you're sending that shit to. But also, if you think your future ex-wife or husband is going to be the only one seeing that fucking photo, you're dead wrong. Look at all the fucking surveillance that we have on us in general. It's what Snowden got in trouble for. Sorry, this fucking chair. Let me ask you this. How comfortable are you going to feel knowing now that whoever's on the backside of that camera is also probably using your photo for a back shot for himself? Oh, man. Is it me, or did I feel like there was a lot that went on last week? I mean, we had that cyber outage. Oh, my God. We had that Trump speech. Did you guys watch that 90-minute hodgepodge of legit? I thought this podcast was bullshit. Bruh, that speech was bullshit. Holy shit. If there was any crime that motherfucker committed, it was the fact that he wasted all of our times. But you know what? I'm sorry. I can't say it was all of our times because it was really only idiots like me who suffered through this. Because, I mean, honestly, how was I not going to watch it? The dude just got shot 6 days prior. Now all of a sudden he's going on to the speech. But it was just so fucking funny. So even before the speech, so he's got this fucking bandage on his ear. Why is everybody like mimicking that? Like, that's the sign of solidarity. Like getting shot in the ear. Like, like that's everybody's peace sign. That's their version of devil horns. Like that's everybody's fucking mask. That little tape over the ear, that's what's gonna unify them as a fucking party. Go fuck yourselves. All this stuff is just, they are just treating this dude as if he's a god, and it is unfucking believable. And the worst part is, I can't even say the mask was the same thing on Biden's side, because in the case of the mask, let's be real, Biden low-key mandated that we did it. But these people took it upon themselves to put that tape over their own ears. Like, I understand the sentiment behind that, but I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of dumb. Like, when Kennedy got shot, did anybody put bandages over their heads? No, you know what they probably did? They probably came out with a costume like that next Halloween, and it was just like, hey, headless Kennedys. But alright, I mean, maybe if Kennedy did survive, maybe they would have done something. But like, did they do anything for Reagan when he got shot? Like, anybody walking around with bandages on their stomachs, or where did he get shot? I think it was his stomach. I don't know. Like, I never heard of anybody doing something like that in any of the books that I've ever read. Granted, it's not a lot, but I don't know, man. I mean, from what at least I know, Kennedy wasn't celebrated at Woodstock. You know, the whole movement about peace, love, and happiness. Yeah, that was actually about Vietnam, which is what Kennedy started. So there were some problems with Kennedy besides his own personal issues here, guys. That's actually low-key sign number one, where you're like, all right, like, Trump's influence is a little interesting, to say the least. I mean, if that doesn't prove his base is fucking hardcore. But it is so wild to me how no matter what Trump gets thrown at, no matter what it is, his supporters, they are his fucking supporters. If he went to jail, he would be getting votes in jail. Like honestly, it was a question to me of whether or not we would be having our first indicted president. Like, that would be fucking crazy. Now, I don't think I'm alone in the fact of that I think it's a setup, but my thing is, I don't know who to blame for the setup. I truly don't know if this is a like Trump thing or if this was something that the Democrats like set up. I don't think Trump would be stupid enough to put himself in that sort of imminent danger. Because it's so bizarre to me, because let's be real here. I don't think Trump would also choose somebody who looked like that to be the one that pulls the trigger. Have you seen the kid? He'd be one of those kids I see going into high school. I'd be going like, hey, maybe give that one a little bit more of a pat down, would you? Like, dude, I think he buckles under pressure. And apparently, according to sources, he was bullied. He was planning on committing some sort of a mass murder because he had, like, dynamite or explosives in his car or whatever. He was planning something anyways, and they're like, oh, he was just going to do it at a rally. No. I don't know if maybe the Dems hired him because that's their way of trying to bow out to Trump and just being like, hey, you win. Like, take it with the fucking highest of honors. Go out like a fucking badass. This is how you get the poll numbers that you want. We can argue that that was what saved you, so we can just slowly get rid of Biden and we can just slowly admit defeat. Because nobody that we run now is gonna fucking beat you. Because Kamala is at a 40% poll rate, so she's actually faring off worse than Biden. And Gavin Newsom's not gonna get the nom because who the fuck wants to be the fucking person to tell her to move over further? What, man? So there's no fucking way in hell that they're gonna remove Kamala from that seat. But I will say, I think a white dude's gonna have to be your VP, and I don't think that's really negotiable at this point. Because could you imagine all of America? We got two minorities. No fucking way that all of middle America is okay with that. Which honestly makes sense as to why Trump chose JD Vance, because JD Vance represents the whole Rust Belt area. I mean, let's be real here. It wouldn't be the first thing he staged. Beauty contests, an election denial campaign. I mean, I wouldn't put it far from him to stage something like this, but I don't know, man. The fact that Secret Service didn't act on it right away. Trump did not seem that surprised either. I mean, if a fucking bullet hits you in the ear, I feel like as an 81-year-old, your first instinct would still be to get down. Like, wouldn't PTSD from any war kind of start kicking in? So he clearly had to have known about this, right? I mean, was it a rubber bullet? Because it's also like, there's no fucking way in hell Secret Service would also allow you, after shots have been fired, to, like, look back out and be like, fight! And just, like, expose yourself again. There's no fucking way that happens. 9 out of 10 times does not happen. The 1 out of 10 times it happens is with Trump. Doesn't make sense. And the Secret Service, it still took them 4 shots to locate the fucker. If I'm Secret Service, I'm not sitting there just like, okay, go get your shoes. I'm like, we're getting in that fucking van. We're getting in that fucking van now. Like, let's go, boys. Time to move, bitches. I don't know, dude. Everyone just seemed a little comfortable. Trump had to have known that this was a plan in some sort of fashion. And the kid was probably just like, you know what? I don't give a fuck. Let me either go out for my country one way or another, whichever way this thing swings. So, I don't know, man. I think it was staged. I think both parties were a part of it in one way or another. It just doesn't add up, because you would think that after Kennedy and after Reagan, things would be different when it comes to assassination attempts. But they're not. Apparently, our assassination attempt protocol is no much better than what it was back in 1865. But to save face, we can't really make it known that this is all collusion. So what's something that we know that could drastically spike your poll numbers? Well, how about we just stage an assassination attempt? It worked for Reagan in 1981, so why don't we try that here? So plus, why wouldn't Trump want to do it? It only adds to his narrative. They couldn't get him politically, they couldn't get him legally, they couldn't even fucking kill him. Like, honestly, what more could they do to get this guy to just go away? And it's proving that nothing they do works. So it's only solidifying his image. But number two, why is it that they said that the only reason Biden would not run is if something happened to him, if he had like an illness or something, and now all of a sudden, I guess 2-3 days after he came out and said that, he gets COVID, and now all of a sudden he's no longer running? He's taking himself out of the race? Nothing like this has ever happened before. The Democrats literally are admitting defeat. But what's really scary is, I think that the reason why that RNC acceptance speech from the nomination acceptance speech from Trump was an hour and a half long is because that was his kind of like first State of the Union address that he's hoping to accomplish. But I gotta be real, like, that rhetoric in his speech, it kind of made me, like, nervous. Like, I kind of finally was like, hey, maybe the Democrats have something on this guy. But first things first, he nominated JD Vance to be his vice president. And it really does seem like JD Vance and Trump are on the same page when it comes to one aspect and one aspect alone, and that's immigration. And both of their immigration policy just sounded super xenophobic. Like, there were a lot of similarities that I noticed between JD Vance's VP acceptance speech and Trump's RNC presidential nomination acceptance speech. But then there are other aspects of JD Vance's stances where I'm just like, are you sure you identify as a conservative, sir? Because he's actually got an interesting take where he actually believes that the government should actually do more to help its citizens when it comes to economic aid. Meanwhile, conservatives are like, less aid, pick you up by your bootstraps. But like financially, JD's actually pretty liberal. And maybe that's because of his upbringing. He's like, hey, maybe if like the government stepped in, then people like my mother, my friends, whoever I keep hearing dying. I mean, you should really check out JD's book called Hillbilly Elegy. They actually did a movie adaptation on Netflix that you could also check out. Both are really good. But it really goes into JD's life growing up in Rust Belt America. But he himself said something incredibly xenophobic, and it was actually, I think, towards the end of his speech, where he said, when we allow newcomers into our American family, we allow them on our terms. People won't fight for abstraction, but will fight for their homes. America is a nation who puts its nation first. And I don't know, that just sounds very like, that just kind of low key sounds like they're going to be very selective, very clicky with who they choose that can come into the country or not. And it's also a matter of like, okay, well, how are you going to do this? So, how are you going to be selecting them? And I don't know, it's just very interesting to me because his wife is also Indian, so you wouldn't think that he would have like kind of like non-outsider type viewpoints, but I guess maybe I'm wrong. But to be fair, I mean, I guess the way you could also spin this is people have to come in legally. So, I don't know, but taking it from the first vantage point where it's like, hey, we're going to be very selective with who we choose. Not everybody's going to be able to come in. Like, yes, we understand that there is a border crisis right now, but maybe your tone could be a little lighthearted. Like, hey, instead of making it harder for people to come in, if people really wanted to come in, because if the ones who really do want to come in would come in legally. Like, they would never want to risk the idea of deportation. Now, granted, a lot of it is probably due to Biden's new policies where pretty much anybody and everybody can come in. But I don't know, it just sounded more of like we're going to do more to keep people out than it did that we're going to fight for people to come in. So, little interesting on that part. But then Trump in his presidential nomination acceptance speech thing, whatever the fuck, at the RNC on Thursday night, he made it a point to mention JD, and he's like, oh, and he'll be around for a while. And I'm thinking, like, wait a minute. Is that because JD can serve 2 terms so he can be in office for 8 additional more years after I can, passing on the torch? Because it's obvious that he's going to be in politics for a while. He's already a senator for a state. He's going to be around for quite some time. Plus, he's young as fuck. He's only like 40. So, yeah, he's definitely going to stay in the political game for a while, as we see. I mean, no joke. When do we start swapping out the old McDonald theme to our political senators? Old Mitch McConnell had a farm. Fucking old Joe Biden had. You can fucking do it with any of them, dude. Okay, but now Trump's RNC speech. So, given the fact that we know that JD's pretty xenophobic, probably comes with the racism of living in the Rust Belt. Let's be real. Middle America, probably not the most progressive when it comes to racial issues. But Trump low-key fear-mongers, and I remember he was talking about foreign policy leaders, and he's like, they're all fierce people. We don't have fierce people. We have people who are a lot less fierce. And quite frankly, I'm like, this dude speaks the same way that a high schooler is trying to stretch out like a 5,000 word essay. Like, bro, like we all been there, right? Like, the assassination attempt on Donald Trump occurred on July 13th, 2024. July 13th, 2024 wasn't just Trump's assassination attempt, it was also the same day that Hawk Tour Girl gets her TV reality show. I don't know. I'm kidding, guys. I don't know if that's true. But, I mean, it'd be wild if it was. Nobody would know how to act. We would all unanimously both hate each other because of what went on, but we would also unanimously be like, did we just become best friends? But he's fear-mongering, and he's pretty much saying that we're not fearful and everybody else is, and we should be afraid of them. But he's the one who's going to be able to help get us through all these scary people. So, Trump, go fuck yourself. But a lot of his stuff literally was on, like, the immigration policy. Like, no joke, I want to say he probably spent a good, probably 30 minutes in total just on his immigration policy, because I thought it was really weird how he would talk about immigration, then he would talk about something new, go back to immigration, talk about something completely unrelated, go back to immigration. It was really bizarre how I think he tried to make immigration the central focus of this speech just because he could look at all the disappointed faces across the aisle. So he also said shit that immigrants are taking jobs from the Black and Hispanic population. And I feel like that's just like your classic anti-immigrant like speak, where it's like you're trying to get other groups of people to hate a group of people that you don't like, so that way you become more favorable to people who might not necessarily vote for you. Because He's trying to get the Hispanic and the black vote by saying, oh, these immigrants are taking your jobs. So now he's creating a second level of hate. And people are like, fuck it, we're going to vote for him just because he'll keep them out. Also just like, okay, well, how are there so many jobs for them to even take? That's my question. I had a buddy of mine, he told me, he's like, yo, 17% of our GDP comes from illegal immigrants? And I'm like, how in the fuck is that even possible? But then Trump also went on to say, people from other countries come in, take our jobs, and plunder our nation. And it's just like, holy shit. And then, of course, he mentions like building the wall, doing all these things in his first 100 days. So I think that was probably like a precursor to the State of the Union that he's trying to give. And I think the Democrats knew that they lost this election. They knew their movement didn't have as much steam politically. So they waved the white flag. And what's really upsetting about all of this, though, is because the whole Biden admin was pretty much saying shit like they don't want to ruin his legacy. They don't want to have people remember him in a bad light. They were also saying that he wouldn't run unless he truly started becoming senile because they didn't want people's last memories of Biden just being senile. But meanwhile, it's like, guys, look at what you've done these past 4 years. The presidency is an aging job. Let me tell you, I would never fucking want that job. If anything, I want VP. Let me play backup quarterback. Let me make a vote or two. We'll have some fun. But the presidency is not a job that I would want. And look at how much older Biden has become. His deterioration was evident as of 2 years ago. Let me tell you. Like, this isn't just something brand new. Like, this was a gradual thing that we've all seen witness live. And they just continuously lied to us about it. But it's sad that our last memory of Biden is actually him being senile. Like, hindsight, he should have just stuck with staying in the campaign, just being good old fighting Joe. But from that first debate in 2020 to what I just saw in our last debate and what I continue to see in interviews where he's trying to make up for it, it's just incredibly sad. Like, seriously, every time he's up on that stage, he just looks lost. I mean, no joke. Biden looks out into an audience the same way I used to look at my high school math tests. Just like, what the fuck is this? Why am I here? And what did I do to get here? Like, fuck all of this. And I hate to say it, but you low-key ruined his legacy the same way he ruined those pants that he had on when he gave that speech that one time. And he just pushed a little too hard. Oh my God. I mean, at this point, the only ringing endorsement Biden's ever going to get is from Pampers. But Trump is truly pulling this, like, truly old school way of thinking, like, cutting taxes, cutting debt, keeping people out, America first. Like, it truly is, like, a very nationalistic style of politicking. And this is what kind of makes people fearful, because truly nationalistic countries become what? I'll let you guys look that one up. So they knew that they were going to lose. And I think they just handed it off. And now Trump is doing whatever he can to maintain this power that he's trying to uphold. Because they already see him as a god. And right now his movement is proving to be the more powerful movement versus the progressives. Which population-wise doesn't make sense because there's probably more progressives. I don't fucking understand any of this. I just think there's a lot of collusion. I think there's a lot of stuff going on that's like insider involved. Because I don't think Trump would have staged it. I really don't. Because I don't think he would put himself in that sort of a risk. The type of narcissist he is. But you know what? The Dems were probably like, hey, trust us. Like, we got a guy. Like, they just probably told him not to wear his glasses before he took those couple shots. But I don't know, man. There's a lot going on here. And unless I cut this off, I'm going to keep rambling. So I'm going to let everybody go. So yeah, as I said, if you guys like this, please share it with a friend. Like, subscribe it. Do whatever you got to do. Comment, review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. If you want to check out my socials, you can check me out on Instagram and TikTok at the LMBE Pod. You can also check out YouTube if you want to get the audio versions of this as well. And you can reach out to me if you want to write in at lnbemedia@gmail.com. Alright guys, I hope you all have a fantastic week. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch up with you next Tuesday. Have a good one.